Okay, G. Welcome to students to my new and exciting lecture of chemical bonding. So this new lecture is basically on the new chapter that is basically chemical bonding. So here we discuss about the different structures of bonds, different bonds, about how the bonds are formed and which bonds have been taken in between these different types of the compounds. So we can discuss all that in the chapter of chemical bonding. So it is very much important chapter according to the examination point of view. So you must have to read and make your concepts clear in that chapter. So, first of all, we will move towards why do atoms form a chemical bond? Why do atoms form chemical bond? So, first question that come in our mind: why they need to become to form a bond? What is the reason they come close to each other and they form bond? So what are the factors that are involved in forming the chemical bonds? Okay, so all these questions must come in mind if we talk about the chemical bonds. So why do atoms form the chemical bonds? Atoms have a natural tendency to decrease their energy because you know that when atoms are formed, their energy is very much increased. So they have a natural tendency that they want to decrease their energy or to become stable. Okay, so lowering energy directly leads to increase the stability. So if their energy decreased, their stability increases. Their stability increases. So from that, you will know about that atoms must form the chemical bond because every atom wants to become the stable. So in order to increase their stability to form a stable bond, they must have to lower their energy. So they lower their energy to increase the stability. Okay? So it's a very simple answer of that. Noble gases are stable because they do not combine with themselves or others. You know, noble gases, which belongs to the group 8, I will show you here. So here I will show you why the noble gases are stable. Noble gases are stable, and why they are stable? They belongs to group 8, eighth group. So when you see at the eighth group, means they have outermost valence shell has 8 electrons in valence shell. So in valence shell, they have 8 electrons, means they are the stable because everyone wants to become a stable to complete their octet. Octet means to have 8 electrons. To have 8 electrons in valence shell. If they have 8 electrons in their valence shell, they are said to be the stable compound. Okay, so every element and every atom wants to become a stable by gaining the 8 electrons. So the how they gain the 8 electrons, some of them have 1 electron, some of them have 2 electrons in their valence shell, and some have 4 electrons, some have 3 electrons. So they want to increase the stability by uh, gaining the stability by complete Earth's octet. So everyone wants to become stable. So noble gases have already have 8 electrons in their valence shell, so they need no any electrons in their outermost shell because their octet is complete. When their octet is complete, means they are stable. So every atom, every element wants to be a stable and wants to be a noble gases. ओके, वो कहते हैं ना कि किसी पर रश्क करना, तो ये रश्क कर रहे हैं कि नोबल गैसेस के पास 8 के 8 कंप्लीट हैं, तो तो बाकी एलिमेंट्स जो हैं वो भी यही चाहते हैं कि हम भी नोबल गैसेस की तरह बने। होता है ना ऐसे कि बाज़ दफ़ा हम सोच रहे होते हैं कि हम अच्छा बनेंगे और अच्छे लोगों जैसा ही जो है वो बिहेव करेंगे, तो हम अच्छे बनने की कोशिश करते हैं, ठीक है? जो अच्छे लोगों को देखते हैं तो उन पर रश करते हैं कि हम भी ऐसे ही बनने की कोशिश करेंगे, या कोई हमारा कोई पसंदीदा कोई शख्स हो तो हम वैसे ही बनने की कोशिश करते हैं। तो बिल्कुल ऐसे ही जो नोबल गैसेज़ हैं वो एक आइडियल हैं उन सब एटम्स के लिए, क्योंकि उनके बाहर वाले शेल जो हैं वो कंप्लीटली फिल्ड हैं, तो उन सब की यही ख्वाहिश होगी कि वो सारे नोबल गैसेज़ जैसी कॉन्फ़िगरेशन जो है वो हासिल करें। So they want to become a stable, okay? So noble gases are stable because they do not combine with themselves or others. So they exist as independently, you will say that, okay? So what is duplet rule and octet rule? Because I told you about octet, what is octet. So I will define you completely so that you may understand what is actually these octet is, okay? So there are two rules. One is the duplet rule, duplet rule, and one is the octet rule. These are the two rules. So we have to understand that what are the duplet rule and what is the octet rule. Very simple, not a very difficult to understand. Duplet means duplet. Do mean do. Do mean two electrons. That having the two electrons in their valence shell. Two electrons in valence shell, like that of hydrogen and helium. They have two electrons. Hydrogen have one electron basically in their valence shell. By gaining one electron more, it becomes H. Okay, so H uh, negative. Hydridine H negative when it gains the two electrons. Okay, so helium already have two electrons in their valence shell, so they have complete their duplet rule. And what is octet rule? Octet rule is when having the 8 electrons in their valence shell. When 8 electrons in the valence shell, then it means that they have octet rule. And the octet rule basically noble gases have their 8 electrons in the valence shell. So we consider octet rule or noble gases that acts as an octet rule. Atoms complete their octet and duplet to get unreactivity. Okay, when they complete their octet or duplet, they consider to be a stable, so they don't need to react with another. Okay, for example, sodium easily lose one electron rather than gaining seven. I will give you the too much example so that you may understand better. So let's move what I talk about through different examples. You can understand about all that things. Okay, first of all we talk about sodium. Okay, sodium having the 11 atomic number. So when we talk about their configuration, as I discussed before in the previous lecture, I discussed that different levels of shells and subshells. So if you don't know what is shell and what is subshell and what is the Bohr's atomic model, so you must see my lecture, that yesterday lecture. So here I will I had defined the Bohr's atomic model and the shells and the subshells and the electronic configuration as well. So you must have to look on that lecture first so that you may understand the electronic configuration that I am making now. Okay, so sodium has basically the 11 electrons. In the first shell we have 2 electrons. In the second shell we have 8 electrons. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, 8 electron in the second shell, but it has the configuration of 11. 11 means that they have one electron remaining, so one electron that is remaining, that is come in the third shell. So this now it is the electronic configuration of sodium. So now look, sodium has only one electron in the valence shell, and it needs to complete its octet. It needs to complete its octet. So how it completes its octet? By gaining the 7 electrons, but no one is very much good to give it 7 electrons. कोई भी इस जमाने में इतना अच्छा नहीं है कि अपनी सारी की सारी ही चीजें उठाकर दे दे, ठीक है? तो it is not an easy task to give 7 electrons to the sodium. Sodium, instead, sodium will lose that electron. Lose electron. Okay. So when the sodium lose electron, this shell is automatically removed. So when this shell is removed, now you will see that the octet is complete. Sodium octet is complete. You will look at that. Okay. So it means sodium has lose electron. When it lose electrons, it becomes a positive charge. It forms a cation. So sodium has +1 charge because it lose only 1 electron. It is the simple example of sodium. Now I will give you an example of magnesium. It is very easy, not too much difficult. You have to look on that so that you can understand very easily. Okay. So don't you worry if you have any queries or question, or you want to understand something more. I will also take the questions definitely and will answer your questions. Okay. So if you have any questions, then in chat you may ask the questions and I will definitely answer your questions. Okay. Now now what I will talk about, I will talk about the things like that. Magnesium, what is the charge on the magnesium? Okay. So magnesium has electronic configuration. If we talk about, so it has atomic number 12. Okay. Atomic number 12. 12. Okay. So now make its electronic configuration. First shell has 2 electrons, second shell has 8 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And the third shell has 2 electrons. Okay. The third shell has 2 electrons. So magnesium cannot take 6 electrons to complete its octet because magnesium needs 6 electrons, but no one is so much good to give it six all the electrons to the magnesium. ठीक है, वही वाली बात जैसे सोडियम की मैंने कही थी, कोई इतना अच्छा नहीं है कि अपनी इतनी सारी ही चीजें जो है अपने सारे इलेक्ट्रॉन ही उठा कर दे दे। इसी तरह कोई इतना अच्छा नहीं है कि मैग्नीशियम को 6 के 6 इलेक्ट्रॉन जो है वो दे देगा। ठीक है, नो वन इज टू मच गुड इन दिस वर्ल्ड। ओके, सो क्या होगा इस instead of this gaining the 6 electrons, it loses the 2 electrons. It is easier for the magnesium to lose the 2 electrons. When it loses the 2 electrons, now you will see it gain the 2 plus charge. It gain the 2 plus charge because it lose the 2 electrons. Okay, this is the simple examples of the chemical bond. So these simple examples must become in your exams, so you have to prepare well these most important elements. Okay, you must know about the electronic configuration of these elements. So now take the questions from your side. I will have to take the questions from your side. If you have any question, yes, any question, then you must ask me in the chat so may I answer your questions. Okay, G students, there will be no question from your side. So now we move towards the next topic, which is the chemical bond and ionic bond. Okay, so there is an exam point of view. One thing is most important, that the sodium adopts the energetically easier path to complete its octet. It means that what is the easier path for the sodium and magnesium? The easier path is to they lose the electrons. Okay, so it is very important, and it must become in the MCQs, so you must have point out this important thing as well. Now talk about the chemical bond and the ionic bond. What is chemical bond? I write the definition of the chemical bond. So here is a very simple and easy definition of chemical bond. Chemical bond is basically a force of attraction. It is a force of attraction between atoms that holds them together, that holds them together in a molecule, in a molecule or compound. Okay, so this is the chemical bond, definition of chemical bond, and I have already defined why the atoms form the chemical bond. So now move towards another, that is the chemical bond. Okay, that is chemical, sorry, ionic bond. What is ionic bond? It is the most important topic, examination point of view. It is most important. So what is an ionic bond? Ionic bond is when an atom completely transfers its electrons from one atom to another. When an electron is completely transferred means that it completely lose the electrons and give it to another atom who needs the electrons. Okay, so if the electrons are completely transferred, we call as ionic bond. Forms oppositely charged ions, that is cation and ion. So when an ionic bond is formed, oppositely charged forms. One is positive and the other form is negative. So positive ions are and negative ions are formed. Positive ions we call it cation, and when we talk about negative ion, it forms anions. So they are anions. So in ionic bond, one most important thing is they have force of attraction, that is the electrostatic force of attraction. Electrostatic force of attraction. What is electrostatic force of attraction? Electrostatic force of attraction is the attraction when the two bonds come close, when two atoms come closer to each other, their attraction increases and they completely transfer their electrons from one atom to another atom. Means one atom completely transfers its electron to another atom which needs these electrons. So a completely force of attraction is formed, that is called the electrostatic force of attraction, that hold these ions together. Very simple example of ionic bond, and the most common example of the ionic bond you must learn, which is very important in examination point of view, because it is very much common in these ionic bonds, because in every ionic bonds this simple example is often comes. What is ionic bond example? Is sodium chlorides, which is called the table salt. Okay, this is the example of table salt, which is sodium chloride. So how the positive and negative charges are formed and how they form the ionic bond. So I clearly defined you that the sodium has outermost one electron and chlorine has outermost seven electrons. Okay, it has 7 electrons. Chlorine has, this is the chlorine, and this is the sodium, and this is the sodium has 1 electron. Valence shell. Okay, I will just talk about the valence shell. Sodium has only 1 electron, chlorine has the 7 electrons. So sodium has in order to gain the octet, it completely transfer its electron. It completely transfer its electron to the chlorine, and you see that chlorine has 7 electrons, and in order to complete its octets, it's only need electron. So the sodium completely take the it gain the electron. When an atom gain the electron, they have a negative charge, or they form the anion. So anion is formed here. Okay, this is anion, and the cation is formed there, sodium positive. So here cation is formed, cation formed. Okay, so two oppositely charges formed, Na positive and Cl negative. Okay, so these are the simplest example of the ionic bond. Now I will just talk about ionic bond is purely a transference game between the electropositive metal and the electronegative non-metal, because sodium, it will lose the electron. So sodium is a metal, it is a metal, while chlorine has gained the electron, so it is a non-metal. So it is a game between the metal and the non-metal. Very, very simple. Okay, now we'll talk about the crystal lattice. What is the crystal lattice? Okay, this one is the sodium. This one, in the red, I will show you the sodium, and that is the chlorine. Chlorine, that is the chlorine, that is the chlorine, that is the chlorine. So here I will show you the different 3D crystal lattice of the sodium chloride. So oppositely charged ions pack tightly in a 3D repeating pattern. Because of equal packing, the whole compound remains electrically neutral. Basically, these sodium chloride is electrically neutral because sodium has a one positive charge and chlorine has a one negative charge. So their positive and negative same charge is cancel each other effects, and they become electrically neutral. We call it as at their form electrically electrically neutral. Okay, so calcium chloride loses the 2 electrons. So here is the example of sodium chloride, and other example we given to you is the example of calcium chloride. So you must know how the calcium chloride is formed. So calcium, it has outermost shell. If we talk about its valence shell, it has 2 electrons in the outermost shell, and it loses the 2 electrons. It loses 2 electrons. When it loses 2 electrons, it forms +2 charge. Okay, so as we talk about the chlorine Cl, uh, Cl, it gains because it is Cl2 means 2 chlorine. One chlorine attain the get the 1 electron, and other chlorine also gain the 1 electron. So 2 electrons they gain from the calcium. So there is -2 ion is formed on the chlorine. So +2 and -2, you will see that the positive and negative charges will cancel each other effect, and they are considered to be an electrically neutral atom. So these are the simplest example of the crystal lattice. I hope you can understand all this very much. So if you have any question regarding to that, you may you may question me so that I may answer your all the question. If you have any queries, please come and chat me so that I may answer your all the questions. ओके स्टूडेंट्स, आई होप आज का लेक्चर आपको बहुत ज़्यादा पसंद आया होगा और आपने बहुत कुछ जो है वो इस लेक्चर से जो है वो हासिल किया होगा। और एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से जो है वो ये चैप्टर बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है। अगर फिर भी आप समझते हैं कि आप लोगों को कुछ और समझना है और एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से कुछ आप लोग समझना चाहते हैं तो आप लोग समझ सकते हैं। Myself goes hello, welcome to my new students as well. But अब आप लोग लेट ज्वाइन ना किया करें क्योंकि टाइम जो है वो मैंने आप लोगों को पहले भी बताया हुआ है कि टाइम जो है वो है 8। ओके, 8 o'clock पर जो है वो मैं लाइव आ जाती हूँ। सो कोशिश किया करें कि लाइव जो है वो आप लोग लेक्चर सुना करें ताकि कोई भी क्वेश्चन हो आप लोगों का तो आप लोग उसी टाइम जो है वो मुझसे पूछ लिया करें मेरे टॉपिक से रिलेटेड जो मैंने आज पढ़ाया है। अगर फिर भी आप लोग जो है वो सुनना चाहते हैं कि मैंने क्या पढ़ाया है तो यू कैन replay my that lecture so that you can understand what type of the question if came in mind, then you definitely ask me to the next lecture. Okay, next lecture जो है वो मेरा 8 बजे जो है वो start होगा। so कोशिश करें आप लोग भी कि जल्दी आया करें लाइव। 8 बजे जो है वो ज्वाइन कर लिया करें क्योंकि मैं 8 बजे जो है वो लाइव आ जाती होती हूँ। ओके, माई सेल्फ गोज हेलो एंड हेलो टू माई ऑल स्टूडेंट्स एज वेल जिन्होंने मुझे ज्वाइन किया और जिन्होंने मेरे लेक्चर को देखा। अ, तो बस 3 मिनट्स और हैं और अगर आप लोगों ने कोई क्वेश्चन पूछना है तो आप लोग पूछ सकते हैं और इसके बाद जो है वो मेरा लेक्चर जो है वो एंड हो जाएगा। ओके, if you have any question regarding to that topics you may ask. Only 2 minutes remaining and my lecture have been ended. This live lecture have been ended. Any question regarding that you may ask. Okay, I think there is no question. Okay, then I hope you may enjoy my lecture and will definitely come tomorrow with the same time at 8 p.m. So join me at 8 p.m. daily and I hope आप लोग जो हैं वो इसको अच्छे से तैयार भी करेंगे और अपने एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से एमसीक्यूज शॉर्ट क्वेश्चंस इससे रिलेटेड जो हैं वो बहुत ज़्यादा पूछे जाते हैं तो आपने बहुत अच्छे से उसको तैयार भी करना है। ओके, तो मज़ीद अगर कुछ भी इम्पोर्टेंट मुझे लगे कि ये शॉर्ट क्वेश्चन बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से तो उसके निशानात जो हैं वो भी मैं आपको लगवा दूंगी क्योंकि इस वक्त जो सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है ना इस चैप्टर में वो है आयोनिक बॉन्ड। एंड शॉर्ट क्वेश्चन में जो ज़्यादातर जो पूछा जाता है वो ये पूछा जाता है कि हाउ द एटम्स फॉर्म द केमिकल बॉन्ड एंड व्हाई दे नीड टू फॉर्म अ केमिकल बॉन्ड। ओके, सो इसका आंसर्स जो है वो मैंने आप लोगों को इस लेक्चर के स्टार्ट में दे दिए हैं। अगर फिर भी आप लोग जो है वो सुनना चाहेंगे तो आप लोगों ने रिप्ले करके मेरी इस वीडियो को देख लेना है। नाउ लेक्चर हैव बीन एंडेड, टाइम हैव बीन एंडेड, सो सी यू टुमारो, बाय बाय।